Mr. Chairman, and also our ranking member. And thanks to all of you for being here with us today. About 2.5 years ago, we had a train derailment in my congressional district in a town called Galena, Illinois, which is in the far northwest corner of the state of Illinois. And these were tank cars that had left North Dakota filled with the Bakken crude. When they hit the Galena area, there was this derailment that happened to have been right along a slough that led to the Mississippi River. So potentially a terrible situation. The BNSF rail handled it very well. Our first responders handled it well, and everything is back in a good place again. But it's a reminder that folks in my area are curious about. In the highway bill, there were the requirements that the tankers carrying flammable liquids, especially something like crude oil, that those be upgraded, and especially those that are the oldest. I think there's a deadline, the fast approaching deadline of January 1st for the oldest and maybe the more dangerous tank cars. So I think this question would be for Mr. Hamburger, Ms. Dar, and Mr. DeJoseph about what is happening in the industry as far as upgrading those, and maybe give us a progress report on that and what you see ahead as far as meeting those deadlines that are coming up.
Let me jump in, I guess. Thank you for that question. This is a good news story. The DOT 111 says the old tank car was referred to. In 2013, there were 21,340 of those tank cars moving crude oil. In the first quarter and second quarter of this year, there are exactly 156. So more than a 99% decline in the DOT 111s moving crude oil, and so given that, I'm quite certain that we will meet the January 1st, 2018 statutory deadline to have those tank cars out of service moving crude oil.
I should probably defer in large part to Ed and to my colleague, Mr. DeJoseph, on the freight rail side and on the supplier side, but I will say from the short line perspective that we have been very pleased with progress that's been made over the last 3 years with the establishment of our Short Line Safety Institute that is specifically focused on raising up the safety culture of our industry with a particular focus on those railroads that do move hazmat. And we recently received a $500,000 grant from PHMSA to create a hazmat training academy. We're very excited about using that to make sure that everyone in our industry is at a level of knowledge and compliance that they need to be to operate safely when they move hazmat on the network.
Thank you. Mr. DeJoseph, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
I would go along with Mr. Hamburger, basically saying that the 111 cars have essentially been removed from crude oil service. There are 16,000 new DOT 117s. And I can't quite read this note. 6,000 retrofitted to meet the new standards. So we will meet the fast requirements from the supply industry.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Shifting gears to Amtrak for a second. Mr. Moorman, you had mentioned that there's an opportunity for expanding passenger rail service in your opening comments. With the help of a federal grant, the Illinois Department of Transportation is working on upgrades that are necessary to return passenger rail for a Chicago to Moline route. Moline is in my congressional district, so something that our people back home are anxiously waiting for. So in the FAST Act, Congress created the Restoration and Enhancement Grant Program to help initiate, restore, and enhance passenger rail service. Can you talk a little bit about how the program can ensure that investments that go into infrastructure upgrades for passenger rail translate into successful service for a route like I just mentioned?
Well, I think it's an essential part of restoring routes like that, and something obviously that we are very interested in, because we believe that the real growth opportunity for passenger rail is our corridors like that to Moline. That's where you have a lot of ridership that wants to go into a congested area, and passenger rail just makes all the sense in the world. So it's incumbent upon Amtrak to work with the state authorities to make sure that the service is well thought out, that we have the right equipment, and that our projections are such that the state has confidence that the service can be provided on the economic terms. But given the assistance that you've talked about, and I think there's even more that can be done, I would tell you that I think state-supported corridors like that are really where passenger rail needs to go in the future.
It's good to hear. All right, Mr. Chairman, my time has expired, and I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Bustos.